Live at the Final Four in Indianapolis, presented by Richmond Region Tourism. Greg Burton, Corey Peterson. It's been a lot of fun here, joined by a guy who's been on our show before, and he is as ingrained into the world of basketball as anyone. He's the director of sports for AAU, our friend James Parker. How are you, James?
Doing great. Glad you guys have me back on the show.
No, well, you happen to be here, and we finally got here, so, I mean, it's all good.
Yeah, it was a calamity last night. It was a disaster, but we got here.
Well, we're happy.
Yeah.
Let's start where we've been starting with a lot of folks, because you're deeply embedded into the world of college basketball, and the big story is Shaka Smart going to Texas. Just sort of your thoughts on Coach Smart moving on after a great run at VCU.
Well, I mean, I'm happy for Coach Smart. I mean, he's turned down a lot of jobs, but obviously he had some goals set and some things he wanted to do, and this job came up, and it seemed like it'd be a good fit for him. I mean, the Houston-Dallas area is a hotbed for basketball right now.
No doubt.
It used to be New York back in the day. I mean, the DMV area, D.C., Maryland, Virginia is really produces a lot of stars as well, but I think he'll go down there, lay down the law, and you might see a championship sometime soon. I
think that's you can provide some perspective there, because he has obviously brought a higher caliber of athlete and a higher rated player to VCU. We're talking about another level, right? Because a lot of those players have been leaving the state of Texas, correct?
Correct. So now he's going to get some of those McDonald's All-Americans like your Justice Winslows of the world who have left and go to the Dukes and different places. So now he'll be able to keep those guys in state. He has the money to do it, a great brand. So I'm looking forward to him doing some great things down there.
What's the perception of Texas, the University of Texas nationwide, do you think?
I mean, I think it's more of a football school, but, I mean, it's always had a strong brand. Mm-hmm. Rick Barnes took the team to the tournament pretty much every single year.
Except for one.
Except for one. They were competitive. They competed hard. So, I mean, I think the expectations there are fairly low from the fan base. So as long as he makes the tournament, which he's going to do, he did it at VCU, 5 out of 6 years he was at VCU. I think he'll be successful, and they'll be happy with what they got.
And talk a little bit about, you touched on it, but kind of dive in deeper about the pipeline of athlete in Texas. Because, we know each other from, my work with Boo Williams and all that, and Houston Hoops, and a lot of those strong AAU programs that are there in Texas have constantly been churning out athletes, but not just one athlete. There's a team. Right. That can I mean, you dig into some of those AAU programs, you can pull 2 or 3 athletes from those top flight clubs.
Yeah, I mean, I actually have a friend who lives in Houston, and he makes his living off of just following high school sports, because he said, 10, 15 years ago, the local newspapers didn't even cover high school sports in Houston. Wow. So he kind of created that media outlet, if you will, to do that. And because of the talent that's coming through there, I mean, they've just done a great job. And I think that might be one of the reasons why Shaka took the job, knowing that in his backyard, he's only 30, 40 miles away from some of the best basketball in the United States. So, and from our perspective, from as far as the AAU clubs that are there, there's some great coaching there. They do a lot of camps and clinics down there. I mean, so it's a great place to be for basketball.
Talking to James Parker, Director of Sports for AAU. You have a presence here at the Final Four. You come every single year. Talk about sort of, what your role is when you come to the Final Four. Obviously, we always keep forgetting to mention, I think some people know this, the National Association of Basketball Coaches, the college coach, is here as well. It's always held in conjunction. So you need to be here. You've got a lot of partners at this event.
Correct. I mean, we get hundreds of college coaches that come to our events throughout the year. So this is a great time for us just to strengthen our partnerships with different universities and colleges across the country, as well as has a presence and support the NCAA. The NCAA gets a lot of slack a lot of times for, all the rules and regulations that they have, but ultimately they are part of the basketball community, part of the sports community. And us being a multi-sport organization, we want to have strong contacts with the NCAA. We want to make sure college coaches know that we are a player in summer basketball, so we're here to support, garner relationships, and make sure that we're bettering our product.
And, touching on that, too, I know that you're heavily involved in kind of the high school basketball circuit. You know who's the next one, or who the top flight kids are. Looking at the McDonald's All-American game the other day, kind of give us a name or two. And some of these kids are still kind of undecided, but you follow them through the 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, because it's a part of your program, whether it be at Disney, at the Milk House, or wherever else. Kind of who's the 1 or 2 kids that you really think is D1 elite ready, maybe a one and done that's out there?
Politically, I don't want to do that.
All right,
I don't want any one of the club coaches out there say, you didn't mention my kid.
Okay. Talk about the class as a whole.
I think the class as a whole, I would say, is fairly weak compared to other classes.
Okay.
I think there are going to be a few gems in that. I think it's not going to be some of the guys that are highly rated right now. It's going to be some people who later on
develop.
Kind of like when Frank Kaminsky was in AAU, nobody they didn't talk too much about him, but now he's done. He's an All-American.
And the benefit of maybe not having a strong class is that you may get 3 and 4 years out of some of these kids and really truly get better pro prospects because they've come, they've developed, they've gotten some of the warts out of their game and been exposed, gone back, tweaked, come back a little bit stronger, a little bit tougher.
Right. And a lot of times, when they're recruiting kids, some kids are going to be high-level players at the college level.
Right.
But it doesn't always equate to them being high-level at the NBA level.
Sure.
So, there's going to be some kids that may be ranked in the 30s or 40s that end up becoming great pros, whereas you have guys who made the McDonald's All-American team and may not pan out as far as being professional players.
Everything's about fit, though.
Yeah, I think you're right. But how much gratification do you take when you see a kid evolve? And maybe a kid that was under-recruited or off people's radar, but you saw something, and maybe he worked hard, and then he just like Frank, like you said, Frank Kaminsky wasn't really on anybody's radar. He's a player of the year.
Right. I mean, I remember Chandler Parsons. He grew up in Orlando. I watched him since he was probably 10, 11 years old, and he's one of those kids that was kind of under the radar. He could play. It's kind of slow, nothing special,
right.
But he made a career out of what he's doing right now. And the guys who were stars on the team at the time, they're not even in the NBA right now. So I think it's great when we see kids who work hard, have a goal, have a dream, and are able to accomplish that dream, through playing a game that they love.
Great stuff. Our buddy James Parker, Director of Sports, AAU, live here on Westwood One Radio Row at the Final Four in Indianapolis. So let's get your thoughts on this matchup.
Before we go there,
go
ask him the question that we've asked everybody.
Oh, yeah, that's
we
good.
Talked about this off air, but who, we talked about Winslow, we talked about Kaminsky, Decker. Who is the best pro? And again, all things equal, because as we know, the draft is about fit. It's about where you go, how you develop. But all things considered equal, who's the best, whether it be a stretch 4 or 3 or Okafor, who's the best? Me, I'm a Winslow guy. I told Kenny Smith earlier today, I said, I feel like he's a James Harden who hasn't really developed yet. And I don't care if he only scores 11 or 12. It's when he scores them. You know what I mean? So interested to get your
I have to piggyback off you. I think Justice Winslow is going to be the main guy in this class. He has great size. He's 6'6". He can get to the basket. He can shoot from the outside. Great heart. I mean, he plays with great tempo in the entire game. He doesn't get rattled. And I think you're right. James Harden's a great example of a player that he might end up being like. We actually did a study earlier this week, and we're looking at the roster of the Final Four teams. And remarkably, 70% of those athletes played AAU.
That was awesome.
On the girls' side, it's in the 90s. It's like 95% of the girls played AAU. So, as you talked about before, it's just great to see a lot of those kids and a lot of club coaches that I know that helped those kids develop to get to this point. And some of those kids are the same kids who won national championships within our program, and now they're doing it on the national stage with the NCAA.
That's great. Really, really good. Is that the answer you wanted?
That's it. I
just wanted you to validate.
I've been wanting somebody to
co-sign me.
Yeah, I've been wanting somebody to co-sign Justice Winslow all day. 2.5 hours.
I'll take my $100 later on.
Yeah, but that's and that's even more relevant just because of the Texas connections.
Yep.
You've been saying that.
Yep.
He, obviously got out of Texas and everything. All right, Kentucky, Wisconsin, Michigan State, and Duke. Obviously unbelievable programs. Hall of Fame coaches. So where do you start as you look at these 4 teams and these 2 games? Sort of where do you start to see to kind of figure out who's going to move on and who's going to hoist the trophy?
Right. Well, I want Wisconsin to win. I just don't want Kentucky to win. But I feel like Kentucky. I think they're destined for history. They made it this far. It's going to be very difficult to beat them. If anybody can beat them, I think Wisconsin can. On the other side of the coin, Duke, Michigan State. Michigan State's playing very inspired basketball. It's like they're the Hoosiers. There's going to be Rudy or somebody out here. So it's hard to bet against Tom Izzo. I mean, his teams always fight.
So you think they get Duke?
They could get Duke.
Is that the UNC talking? Or
I mean, I never cheer for Duke, so I'm always go for the other person. But yeah, I think ultimately I think it's going to end up being Duke and Kentucky if I had to bet money in the championship game.
Yeah,
and Kentucky
which is probably the one everybody wants to see.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that's what CBS wants to see.
Evil.
Well, I don't think that's a close game though, man. I don't.
Oh no, I think it's a bad matchup for Duke.
I think it's a horrible matchup for Duke because you go maybe one off the bench, and that's Grayson Allen.
Yeah.
And no disrespect to him, but I mean, you're playing against 2 starting fives that are top 5 starting fives.
I'm not going to argue with you.
You know,
now if they shoot, if they have, if I saw them shoot like the way they did at Virginia that night when they knocked off Virginia and they made, 13 of their last 14 shots to end the game, they do have that in them, but it'll take that kind of effort.
But think about the fact that let's just put the Harrison twins on Cook and Jones,
and go lockdown, right?
How do you get that shot off?
You're not. Those 2 guys are 6'6".
Yeah, that's almost 4 inches. So, we'll see, man. I'm excited about it.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
James, thank you. As always, you're welcome anytime. It was great to catch up with you here at the Final Four, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And if folks want more information, just about – because I think that's one thing. I think when you say the letters AAU, I think I had a vision in my head, but in just 2 conversations with you here on the radio, I've learned more about what the AAU is about and how much good you do in trying to develop all athletes.
Yeah, AAU is a household name, just like Kleenex is a household name. So if you want to find out what the real AAU is, go to our website. Go to aausports.org. Find out what events we actually sanctioned. There's a lot of events out there that claim they're AAU that don't run by the right rules and regulations, that are poor gyms, those type of things. And that's not what we're about. We're about providing a great place to play, safe environment for the athletes to play in, and high-level competition.
Great stuff. James Parker is the Director of Sports for AAU. Thanks so much, James. More live coverage of the Final Four from Indianapolis continues on Westwood One Radio. It's all presented by Richmond Region Tourism.